Thank you for listening to Scandinavian Crimes Podcast. Be sure to check out the episode links and be part of our other social media platforms where you can leave a topic suggestion or even share some of your insights regarding the subject matter of the episode. We will always do our best to provide a well-researched episode, but sometimes due to limited access to information and translation issues, some information can be lost. It is therefore good to do your own research and get a deeper understanding of a case of your own interest. So with that all said, let us start today's episode.
Welcome to Scandinavian Crimes. My name is Devante, and say hello to my co-host Delila.
Hi everyone.
And on this podcast, we will cover famous Scandinavian criminals who made their mark throughout Scandinavian history. So in this episode, we have a treat for you. This is going to be a really long episode, but this particular person is not only a killer, but he actually was able to technically escape custody for a little while. And what makes this story even crazier is that it wasn't even that long ago, and this man is still alive as we speak. And as we continue, to read this story, keep that in mind. This man is actually living still. So sit back, grab a drink, because this one is going to be a nice, juicy, succulent story. So today, we are covering the notorious killer and abuser, Peter Lundin. So we're going to start with Peter Lundin's father. In 1950, Ole Lundin and his brother moved from Canada to the United States so that they can join the United States Army, where they could keep their Danish citizenship, unlike in the Canadian Army. While Ole was stationed in West Germany, his brother was sent to Korea, where he died of a virus. Anna Schaffner was a young German girl Ole met while serving in West Germany. After getting married, they settled in Denmark, and he worked as a bricklayer. Ole built the couple's house all the way in Solrød Strand. Peter Lundin was born on February 15th, 1972 in Denmark. A few years after, a blood clot incapacitated Ole Lundin in 1979, and coupled with the work's financial struggles, their house was foreclosed. As a result, they immigrated to the United States with their 9-year-old son, Peter Lundin, and the rest is kind of history.
I think there's a lot of focus on the father, so I wonder if he's very important to this whole story. It's interesting. I'm very intrigued now. And also how this starts it kind of sounds like a villain story or something, like the beginning of a villain story with the moving around and also the financial issues. So I think I'm more interested to hear more of the story, I guess, to just see how this will evolve.
I will say this. The father is definitely involved in the story more than I would initially have thought. As we're kind of creating and telling the story now, it was yeah, he has a big part to play. So we're definitely gonna be in for a big one as we get to the next section. So I guess let's continue with the story. As a result, they acquired a house in Essex Drive in Ormond Beach in Florida, where they ran a motel. The family moved into a newly acquired house in Maggie Valley, North Carolina in 1984. Several years later, Ole left his wife Anna, taking his son Peter with him. They initially settled in Los Angeles, where they stayed for a few weeks. Following that, they tried staying in Boston, but it was also unsuccessful, so they moved to New York. In Miami, Ole found an apartment and got back to work as a bricklayer. In spite of this, Ole and Anna reunited again, with the father and son bringing Anna down from North Carolina to Florida. In the meantime, the 14-year-old Peter had started studying in school in Miami. While at school in Miami, Peter worked at various jobs in his free time, including being a waiter at a restaurant. On the day he turned 16, he quit school and instead started working for his father as a bricklayer. It was during this time that he had his first exposure to drugs, which was, cocaine and marijuana. However, his family moved back to Maggie's Valley, where he began studying at a local high school. It was around the same time where Peter began selling cannabis to his classmates as well.
Here we can see early signs of not good things. Okay. So here is like the drug dealing to the high school as well. That's actually the villain story I was talking about. It's starting here. And also not only that they were moving around a lot. And I could only I've heard that a lot of people who are moving a lot during their childhood don't feel that they have a safe environment. And that also can in many ways give them insecurities of not having a safe environment.
Like that feeling of always being on edge, right?
And also the instability of the parents' relationship as well doesn't really help anything at all. So I can
toxic.
see that, yeah, it's very toxic. That's very unfortunate, honestly.
Well, it only gets even better from here. Oh, okay. Well, not better, but it gets more intense.
Okay.
So the crazy part is him and his father both ended up murdering their mother, Anna Schaffner Lundin, around April 1st, 1991. Now, the exact date is not reliable. Unfortunately, that's kind of still up in the air. Even to this day, that information is still all over the place. But, that's what they assume based on the body. Peter Lundin is 19 years old, and his family had been in chaos, as we both know, for a really long time. Both were often drunk, which is crazy because he was 19, and often they both were violent towards their mother. Previously, the situation was so serious that family neighbors would call the police so many times, but there were no reports of police visits. An altercation was believed to have caused the murder in the first place. Anna Lundin wanted to cut off her son Peter's long hair, but as a result, he choked her, which, in my opinion, is an extreme escalation. Together with his dad, they drove the body down to the town of Buxton and buried it on the wide sandy beach of Cape Hatteras. This is kind of out of control. I just had to say that before I get to the next part. On November 1st, 1991, Outer Buxton was walking on the beach near the lighthouse in Banks when passerby discovered the body of I'm just still flustered by this, honestly.
Yeah,
low key. Okay. I've read this, but I'm still kind of flustered by this.
Yeah, I would be.
So a passerby discovered the body of a woman washed ashore. The body was wrapped in blue blanket, covered in black plastic, and tied with duct tape and yellow rope. Peter and his father subsequently fled to Canada, but on June 6, 1992, they were both arrested in a Toronto hotel room. That's out of control.
Yeah, so many things happen here. Oh my, I feel so sorry for the mother. Imagine that your son would kill you. Oh my god, that's and it's the father crazy. Even helped. I was
helped him.
Ooh, okay.
Oh my gosh. All because I want to cut your hair. No, death.
Yeah, it's
that's such an escalation.
The escalation is intensely what? Yeah, that was not good. I don't know if I can handle the rest of this. Okay.
The story just keeps getting crazier and crazier. But
not only that.
Trust me, it gets.
Okay, they killed her, but here we can also see early exposure of the drugs led to also addiction, not only to that, but also alcohol as well. Mm-hmm. And that also that Peter kind of followed the mannerisms of the father.
Yeah.
So it's
his dad is absolute garbage.
Yeah, he is absolute garbage. But I guess that he was the only safety he had because he had to. Did he have to go with him after they broke up and then,
he spent the most time with his dad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that was his only security, but still the escalation was. Yep. Okay.
So let's continue this juicy story because if you're already triggered now, wait till you get to the next few sections of this because it gets even crazier.
Yeah.
So in July 1993, Peter Lundin was sentenced to 20 years in Dare County. At the time, his father Ole was sentenced to 2 years in prison as an accomplice. Both were deported to Denmark after serving their sentences. Ole completed his sentence and was deported, but Peter appealed both the length of this sentence and his deportation. Although he was unable to overturn his conviction, on February 16, 1995, his sentence was commuted to 15 years, and Brown served his sentence at Creek Correctional Facility. In 1994, Lundin was interviewed by Danish television channel TV2 while in prison. The show was broadcasted by Nordisk Film TV and TV2 and organized by TV journalist Jesper Kilt. The show was called The American Dream and was about how a young Danish crossed the Atlantic. It just so happened that Lundin got into the program. The Danish TV official happened to be flipping through the newspaper and found the story about a Danish citizen named Peter Lundin being convicted of murdering his mother. Organizing Jesper then wrote to Lundin asking him to participate in an interview for Danish television. Lundin replied that he would like it, and the procedure regarding the television recording was reconciled with the American prison authorities, who had been very lenient about interviewing prisoners. During the interview, Peter Lundin painted some parts of his face black and others white, representing the duality of good and evil. After watching this interview, Professor Steve Lavender, a renowned Swedish psychiatrist, gave Lundin his score of 39 out of 40 on a psychopath checklist. This documentary aired on TV2 on December 14th, 1994. He is out of his mind. Painting your face. Yeah. Like, you can tell he likes the attention. Then painted his face black and white. Like, he had an intent. He was like, oh yeah, I want to do this interview. And then he's basically, this is also like very typical of someone who has that kind of mindset. Like, he has this control, like, I'm the representation of good and evil, chaos and order. And like, he feels like he's a force of nature, when in reality he's just some crazy white dude who grew up in a trashy home and had a crazy relationship with his parents. And you know, he's like, it's just out of control to think like he jumped on TV thinking like, yeah, I'm this force. But you know, it's, you know,
I'm really glad that they did that interview though, because now we have evidence that a verified psychopath, like he was evaluated by a psychiatrist as a verified psychopath. So it's like, now we have like this is him, and he had the highest, like super high score. It was like one score away from having a full
being
score.
The full 40, right?
It's like, yep, you are. Oh my, yeah. There are a lot of things here that I'm glad that the interview happened, but it's, yeah, you can tell that he really wants attention. But I think that also, as you said, many would actually go towards that direction when, like, if you have maybe he also have like traits of narcissism.
For sure, definitely. I definitely can see that being a thing where he has like these narcissistic traits, and you know, I definitely think so. If I would put my 2 cents and be like, I don't think he's that bright. Typically, people who, I can't say every psychopath is intelligent, but I think
they're very
at least the way the information
and analyzing and stuff. But
yeah, and he's very, like, he's the version of these psychopaths where I remember in the last episode I was saying some of them have like very small emotional ranges. He's the one who falls into that category where he is driven and impulse, like he's impulse driven, like he feels anger, he lashes out, and he just escalates everything. So he has no conception of, let me calm down, this is a reach. Like, he goes ape crazy.
It's like, hi son, I'm just gonna trim your hair. No, choke, death. It's like,
right, I'm like, such an escalation. Like, can you imagine what it must have been like? I'm like, oh my god, can I have a cup of coffee? Sure. This coffee's cold. Stab.
Stab. It's like, I don't know. Like, I can't imagine like there are people like this out there who just doesn't have the control of their emotion that way, that they just following their impulses like that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, it's interesting now, but it only gets worse. So, Lundin was released after serving only half of his sentence. North Carolina at the time was desperately short on capacity and had a severe lack of space due to several things, but most of which being a large number of U.S. prisoners of war were currently being held at Fort Bragg military base. Authorities therefore decided to halve prison terms of those incarcerated before a certain date, and the law at the time did not allow inmates to serve in another U.S. state. On July 4th, 1999, he arrived in Copenhagen airport where he was escorted by 4 U.S. police officers, and upon arrival in Denmark, Peter moved in with his wife Tina Lundin, whom he had married in 1996 during his prison term, and her teenage daughter Malov. What in the world?
Oh my God. Who in their right...
I don't understand. You met this man in prison for killing his mother, and your first thought is, oh my God, love at first sight.
Oh my God, I want this bad boy. Like, what? He killed his
makes
mother.
Me quiver. Like...
Oh my God, what is wrong with... Okay, you know what? Let's not jump to like assumptions here. Maybe she has some traumas and that she goes to like bad boys like that. I don't know. Maybe he was super good with a flirt. Like maybe he was like a really good smooth talker.
How can you smooth talk on paper? Like it's whatever you imagine. This is before cell phones. Like you can barely call prisons at this time. Like, he was really on the phone like, hey there, girl. Yeah, when I get out of prison, I'm about to make you my wife. I'm about to do this. I'm about to do that. Like, how are you chatting like all this romantic stuff in a prison that barely has any hygienic standards? Like, why would that be attractive? But then again, like you said, maybe she has some trauma and then she's attracted to these kind of people. I don't know.
My heart sank when you said that though. Like that he married this innocent poor little... Oh, I want to... Okay, we have to continue this. But it's like... I'm so worried.
Yeah,
But I actually have
worried now.
I actually have a question, though, about... Like, you said earlier that they kind of have lack of staff and an increased amount of prisoners. Was it because of the Vietnam War?
It definitely had something to do with the Vietnam War. It's a combination of during the time in the U.S. This is still legal, by the way. In the U.S., they are allowed to hold people under suspicion of terrorism. So let's say in the Vietnam War, anyone who was from Vietnam, and let's say they were in the country at the time, if the government deemed you as a threat, you can be imprisoned. Also, there were a lot of people who didn't want to go to war during the Vietnam War. So there were a lot of people who deserted their posts, which is why they specified Fort Bragg military base. So there was a lot of people who were just not trying to fight. And that was a huge reason why, at least in this case where he got his sentence halved, because there were just other things going on, which sometimes it doesn't happen nearly as often, but it can still happen today by definition, technically, legally. So,
okay.
That's what makes it a very trippy kind of thing. You know, you would think like they would keep him in there, but, you know, sometimes war takes priority and things, you know, military, right? So, but unfortunately.
But they did. Oh, sorry.
It only.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Take that. No, like take that away. Just continue. I just like.
Yes.
I'm unhinged about this story, so I'm like, no, I need to hear more. Sorry.
Yeah, because it's going to get worse. Trust me. If you're, like, say, you're uneasy now, it's going to get worse. Okay. In the fall of 1999, when his wife and daughter were assaulted and kicked out of the house, Peter moved into a men's home in Nørrebro. While living there, he visited a brothel in Copenhagen where he met a brothel employee, Marianne Pedersen. Marianne Pedersen said she was 36 and retired early, and she was a widow for the past year. Pedersen and her 2 sons, as well as her daughter Denise and her husband Brian, lived in Copenhagen suburb of Ladover. I'm probably butchered that, so
it's fine,
work with me here.
I think you're doing very well. I think that's better than I would have been able to do it.
Eventually, Landon and Marianne later became lovers. So it's going to ramp up even more. On July 3rd, 2000, Pedersen and her sons were declared missing by their older son-in-law.
Oh, okay, sorry, continue.
Concerned that he could not reach Pedersen or the boys on his cell phone, he contacted the police. He found a note on the front door that they had gone on vacation. The note was worded oddly, so the stepson went inside to find the family and the house in disarray.
It's getting...
This is also proving my point that he's stupid, because it said the note was worded oddly, which means he could have some learning deficiency or something like that, because that's also possible. Because the only thing that would be a red flag on a note is like you couldn't spell certain things, or you misspelled something, or something was just off. But I don't get it. I don't understand. So crazy enough though, the wife and daughter that he married ended up staying alive, because the second he assaulted them, they kicked him out immediately. They didn't wait. They didn't give him a chance. Yeah. They kicked him out. That saved their life. Ladies, if you're listening to this podcast, do not wait for multiple chances. Leave. All it takes is one. Leave. Because that will save your life. Trust me.
But it might not as well, because like if you leave, they might stalk you and kill you. So that it depends on the situation as well. But like leaving is the first step, and also finding help ASAP
is the second. Yeah, that's the second step. Like don't wait and be like, oh, he was just mad, or he just having a bad day. Nope. Leave, go somewhere safe, make sure your family is taken care of, and don't let it escalate, because it would just only get worse.
Yep.
Because that's exactly what saved their lives in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you ready for the next section, or?
Nope, but let's do this. I have to. I'm committed.
So, after filing a missing persons report, police began investigating the disappearance. Upon an initial search of the house, it appeared that there were discrete bloodstains scattered around the house. Further investigation revealed bloodstains in Pettersson's bed, her car, and the cellar, and traces of blood between bathroom tiles, and even on the chopping and blender. Sorry, let me do that again. Do the sentence. Further investigation revealed bloodstains in Pettersson's bed, her car, and in the cellar, as well as traces of blood between bathroom tiles, and even on the chopping board, and in the blender that was located in the kitchen. Meanwhile, police went to Lundin's home address and searched the premises. Lundin claimed that they were on holiday and he had agreed to paint their house, but on July 5th, 2000, Lundin was arrested and detained for 4 weeks and charged with murder. Further studies of the house led to the conclusion that Pettersson and her 2 sons had been killed and dismembered. The first dismemberment had taken place in the basement, while the other 2 were in the garage. A recently cleaned freezer located in the shed at Pettersson's property also had traces of blood inside. Deputy Chief Inspector, whose first name was Niels, from the Criminal Police Department, told the press both places looked like slaughterhouses. Even though Peter had tried to erase his tracks by cleaning up, we obviously knew he was there.
Well, obviously he was doing a terrible job with like cleaning. I would never hire him to clean my house. Like, he did a bad job with that. And his excuse, they was like, oh, they're on holiday. I just agreed to like paint their house, like with what, blood? It's so stupid.
Essentially, he was like, this is a nice deep red. I would love this in my home.
Oh, lovely color.
Wouldn't you love this in your home?
What kind of color is that, my dear? Oh, blood red? Oh, okay. It's like,
that's a nice red. Nice red.
It's just that, yeah, like that was just interesting to me. How he, like, that was a mistake thing. He didn't clean, like, compared to the other crimes that we heard, they, like, the first one, they were kind of obvious. The second one and the last one that we did, where she kind of like didn't drug the victims appropriately because of weight, because like you still have to calculate that stuff and also not make it noticeable. But like this one, you could have cleaned better. That is just like clean a little better. You even got all the stuff you were shopping before you even did all of this. And he also, which is interesting here that you said, like, is that he actually was charged with murder first, which I think is good, because they were like, we see evidence here. So
it's crazy because like he didn't think the fact that she had a daughter and a son-in-law, and you'd figure like I can just kill him and then nobody would notice, when there's 2 other people who lived in the house who weren't there when you killed them, and then they up and leave and go on vacation without the other 2 people. So this story just proves like he's super dumb, and the only reason he got as far as he did,
anything at all. He's just like
he's impulse driven.
Yeah, he's just doing what he feels like, and then he's like, "Whoops, I need to have excuses.
My bad.
I have to like do stuff."
Right.
It's like, okay, it's okay.
He's like, I was gonna paint their homes. You know, I'm just like, ugh. But these are one of the cases where impulse driven, it's horrible, and they're pretty easy to catch. Like, you knew it was him the second you started reading this story. So
yeah,
that's what makes it even funnier. But you know, let's see how this transpires.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet you're wondering, like, oh, why he didn't call the police or whatever like that. Well, according to him, he did not call the police as he thought they would not believe his story because of his past, and instead decide to dismember the bodies. What?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh my
It's
God.
one thing to be scared, but you decided, well, I'm afraid. Let me cut up the bodies anyway. I'm sorry. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. That is so suspicious. Like, oh my God, that is. I feel like I don't know if this is possible, but can psychopaths have like a mental where they haven't matured? Or
yeah, that's entirely possible.
Because I feel
some serial killers are not intelligent.
Because I have some, like, I don't know what's it called. You know, the 13th, Friday the 13th, the guy, the main murderer in those movies, where he kind of like still a kid.
What, Friday the 13th?
Yeah.
Oh, Jason?
Yeah, Jason. Thank you. Like, he just like killing everyone because he hates everyone, but he's like a child within. He hasn't like grown up since the incident of his.
Yeah, because I mean, he was a child and the trauma trapped him at that age. But I mean, I guess technically we could say the same thing about him by definition, like air quotes, we could. But, you know, he's really not that bright. He dropped out of high school, and I don't know what his grades were looking like, but based on his home situation, it was very unstable. So, and also too, like the fact that he's very impulse driven, who knows, maybe he is intelligent, but because his impulses feel so powerful,
he can't really
to
save
him,
them.
he can't pull back from it. He submits to his impulses almost instantaneously and completely. So who's to say that he's not intelligent? But, you know, let's keep this going, because if we stop at every sentence that gets us upset, we'll be here for another 2 hours.
Sorry. Okay, let's go.
So on October 10th, 2000, he confessed to killing them. He explained that he had quarreled with Marianne because she had spoken sweetly on the phone with another man. Subsequently, they all got up to fight on her double bed in the bedroom, and there he broke all three's neck with his bare hands. After the murders, he placed the bodies in the house's freezer. The story was not quite corroborated by the forensic evidence, however, as it was reasonably determined that one of the boys had died in the basement, and the investigators found it unlikely that he had broken their necks the way that he claimed. He can't be serious right now.
He can't be serious at all. This guy changed the story 3 weeks after. And then he basically just like, oh, I killed her, but not the other kids. And that was because we were kind of like fighting. And then the story didn't even match the evidence that the police were saying, but they were like, oh, that's good enough. Like, him admitting that the killing was not intentional basically changes this from a murder to
like trying to get like
manslaughter, which is like a lesser crime.
Like as they say, a crime of passion, basically, which in court does actually affect your sentence. You can actually commit a crime of passion,
and nobody can
they will
prove
consider
this.
Temporary. Yeah, and there'll be like temporary insanity, and your sentence can actually be reduced because of that. And I think that's what he's trying to go for, because he's like, well, there's no way for me to get out of this. There's overwhelming evidence that I killed them. Well, try and make it seem like I did it unintentionally. But anyways, let's see what the cops figured out about this situation, because he's clearly gone in the head. On June 19th, 2000, Lundin went shopping at a Metro in Glastrup, where he bought an axe, rubber glove, plastic bags and cleaning agents, after which he dismembered the bodies. This is solely intent right here. You're telling me you went and bought these things. That's intent.
That is
this is not accidental.
Oh my god. They even have the proof. They have probably his receipts and everything. What is wrong with this? Like,
this is
God. Okay, continue. Like,
this is out of control.
This is triggering me so much. I'm so confused how they. Okay, sorry. Continue. Yeah, let's go. Just let's just move on with this one.
I got you. Okay, so Lundin put the body parts in plastic bags, which he placed for bulky waste outside the house, which was thus driven for incineration. He then probably drove around Zealand and Mariansford, Mondale, and placed smaller body parts in various waste containers. About 10,000 tons of slag were investigated, as well as a waste site in Holm Ostrup near Næstved. And with the help of Danish Emergency Management Agency, the entire Vestvolden was searched. Basically, I'm assuming that they had help from like the people who worked in the area. The bodies of Pedersen and her two sons had never been recovered. Bro, like, he has no way. Come on, there's no way. I hope this dude, like, come on. I hope he had a rough life in prison, because there's no way. Like, you did it.
I am so. This is truly a roller coaster right here. This is like it. This feels like a movie.
I'm pretty sure if there isn't a movie, even though the documentary that he did in prison, yeah, like the documentary he did is still out there somewhere, but I'm pretty sure, you know, if one hasn't been made because we made this episode, there will be a movie made about it. So who's to say? But let's get to let's finish up with the trial information, because I'm pretty sure at some point, well, I don't think it ended up being that bad, me personally, but maybe you're gonna feel like.
Okay, pause all of this. I just want to say, did you skip a part?
No.
Did you say about the broken necks?
Yeah.
Oh,
we did that already.
Oh shit, I'm like behind in my brain. Okay, continue. Let's go.
Yeah, we almost been going for like 40 minutes almost.
Because I was like, did we talk about this? Oh, either way, let's go. Let's go to the next. The trial. I'm gone.
So let's get to the trial part of this, because even though I think he still got what he deserved in some way, honestly, this dude, me personally, death penalty, but whatever. So the trial of Peter Lundin was scheduled for March 5th, 2001 in Austria, Landstrid. Just days before, police and his prosecutor Eric wanted Lundin to plead guilty to premeditated manslaughter. I'm assuming they wanted him to plead because if he plead, that's a guarantee that he was going to go to jail. The trial of Peter Lundin was scheduled for March 5th, 2001 at Ostred Landstrid. Just days before, police and his prosecutors Eric Merlung wanted Lundin to plead guilty to premeditated manslaughter. But this time, that didn't happen, and the case had to be decided by a judge and a jury. The foreman first gave the following comments directly to 12 jurors. The president noted concerns about the repercussions that both the judges and the jurors have inevitably revealed by mentioning the case in the media nearly 8 months after its arrest. Speaking directly to the jurors, he said, "We also have to keep an eye on what we hear and see outside the courtroom during the trial." But ultimately, his fate was decided, and as of today, he is still in prison at 50 years old, which, remember, is not that old. He was born February 5th, 1972, so he's only 50, which means he has a life imprisonment for 4 victims in 2 different countries. And this is the story of Peter Lundin. Oh, wow.
He was charged with manslaughter just based on his freaking trash ass change story. I was like, oh. And then he basically, but he did say that he did like strangle, right?
Yeah, he admitted to strangling, but the intention behind it was different.
Because like then he changed it
I'm
again
assuming
in that case. It's
yeah.
just like how can you be like, oh, it's still manslaughter?
Well, what they gave him was premeditated manslaughter. So
it started off with a manslaughter.
Intend to kill.
Okay.
Yeah, so manslaughter. Then they gave him because initially, like, let's say you're going into it raw. Based on his history, you would assume he murdered them. It seemed like he had every intent. Then, based on his story, it changes again to just manslaughter, which would have had a lesser sentence. But in this case, it was premeditated manslaughter. So even though it was still kind of planned, it wasn't far planned. It wasn't like he planned it last week. Like,
oh
yeah,
my
I'm gonna
God,
kill you.
who are the juries for this one? Like, it's the same thing. It's a murder. Just charge him with.
But the thing was, it wasn't the judge and the jury. It was the prosecutor, because they wanted to guarantee him going behind bars. So if they plead him to premeditated manslaughter, they would guarantee that he would go to jail. That's usually why they give people plea deals, so that way they can get a guaranteed charge. Okay. So even on lesser things, like let's say you're driving with a suspended license, most of the time when you go to the courthouse, they'll make you plea down to like pay a fine. So that way they can get a guarantee, like, okay, I can get money out of you or something out of you, even though that's like such a minuscule thing compared to this. That's basically what they wanted, a guarantee that they can get something on him. And in this case, he's still in prison. I'm almost confident he pleaded because there might have been a possibility of a death penalty or something like that in his case. So he was like, I'd rather be alive in jail for the rest of my life than, be dead. Unlike the other 4 victims.
But wait, I don't think in Denmark that they kill. I don't think they have death penalty in Denmark.
Then I have no idea why would he plead to a premeditated manslaughter when. Then what was the point of the prosecutor doing that then? Because that doesn't make any sense. There's no reason for it. I'm very sure that they don't have. I don't think no Scandinavian country have
death penalty. That's an American thing in some states. That is. I'm not 100% sure, but I just wanted to say one thing. It's funny how he was like, oh, I'm not gonna call the cops. I'm not gonna call the cops because like they won't believe me because of my history. But like, you did do it, so they could have just like. It's so stupid how he was like, oh.
If we want to get
technical.
If you want to get super technical, so manslaughter refers to the act of killing someone but without malice afterthought. And manslaughter can never technically be premeditated. However, let's say you kill someone, but then the intention, but it can be intentional or unintentional. But let's say like your afterthought is negative, then technically that can be premeditated manslaughter.
Okay.
Because his intention wasn't immediately to kill them. Like I said, within that single day, he wasn't planning on killing them. So it was still a relatively short window, but
okay, what does it take? I agree.
I still think that's murder.
Like, yeah, like, what does it take in that case to be charged and like sentenced with murder? Then you have to have like the difference proof of planned terrorism or something. Is that like?
Well, not necessarily terrorism, but at least according to the law, and it varies obviously from place to place because that's the thing about jurisdiction is it changes. But yeah, so for example, like first degree murder is any killing that was both intentional and premeditated. So like I said, you have to have the intention. Second degree murder is like killing, with malice and you have bad thoughts about it after. So it's not necessarily premeditated. Let's say if you're killing someone in the middle of a fight, it's not premeditated. It was second degree murder. Like it was malice because you were fighting the person, but you didn't do it intentionally. But it was still kind of like your goal was to hurt them. So it's mostly just apples and oranges.
Okay, so in my case, I think that if he wouldn't have killed... Oh, wait, no, it doesn't matter. Like, I think... you know what? I think it's still a murder.
Yeah, we can agree.
Yeah, like...
We're going to classify it as a murder and call it a day.
I don't know about that one. Like, I don't know what it takes in Denmark for someone to be charged with murder. But to me, it does sound like how... it does sound like a murder. The thing is, however, it's very hard to prove a murder because you don't really know the intent if they don't have like proof that they planned something, right?
Yeah, that's.
So it's like,
I guess that's
isn't it
also
often
what could have factored into that.
Yeah. So isn't it oftentimes like manslaughter because it's only from the view of the perpetrator? They'd be like, oh, it started like this, like the other victim is dead already, so there's like no way. The only proof you can get is like from people that were around them and friends or family, you know.
Right, which we can assume naturally he didn't have many of, but it's hard to say honestly. But anyways, we can go all day about technicalities, and also laws have changed since then and all that, so there's no way for us to figure out how or what they define as like, you know, premeditated manslaughter or murder or whatever. Things change. We can go back and forth about it for another hour, but I do hope that the audience enjoyed this very lengthy, extensive circumstances, because this was an emotional roller coaster in so many ways.
It was indeed.
So I hope you enjoyed it, and don't let negativity like this weigh you down too much. I know it can be exhausting hearing all of this, but the advice I'll give you today is go get yourself some nice barbecue chicken.
Oof.
Some macaroni and cheese, and just enjoy yourself some good old food.
Soul food.
Some soul food
Heal
too.
your
Get
soul
yourself some
after
soul.
this
Whatever you gotta do. Yes, heal it. It doesn't even have to be the food specifically I mentioned. Just get some good food and just enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.